is it the TV, taping for TV, filming a feature-length movie, or modeling for a magazine? And I'm just going to it's an open-ended question. I'm just going to let her talk, and when she's done.
How long do you have? Well, I've been asked the question before what I like better, and it's really hard to say because I was born when I was, well, obviously, but when I was born I started modeling, and then as time went on I became more a TV actress, and then that sort of led into being a film actress. And I can't say I prefer anyone more than the other, because whenever I stay away from either modeling or making films for any length of time, I can't wait to get back to it. So I'd have to say that I like them all, and there are good points and bad points to each of them, probably.
But I remember anytime, I think modeling is really Brooke's root, and because anytime she's ever made a film but been away from home for any length of time, when she comes to get home again, she's very anxious to get back into working with the people that she's always worked with, as far as the people in New York who've done magazines, covers and things for all the magazines, that is. And I find that it's something that she sort of goes home to, the modeling career, whereas films takes her away from home, and it's a different atmosphere, even though it's, say, 3 months and we have a nice house that we stay at, and it's a home away from home, but the modeling seems to be the route that brings her back home, and she feels cozy and comfortable doing that kind of work.
Also there's a lot to be said about the difference between the two. That if you go in to do a modeling job, you go in at some afternoon and get your hair and makeup done, and you shoot maybe for a few hours, and then that's it. Whereas a film can last up to, 3 months or more longer. The longest film I've ever made was just 3 months. And so there's a sense of creating an entire life for yourself for 3 months. You usually go on location, or you go somewhere and you have an entire family for a period of time. So they're both very different, and it depends on what you feel like doing. If you feel like, sometimes it's nice to just get in there, do a job, and then leave, and then other times it's nice to know that you can have time to really dedicate yourself. Lauren.
Thank you.
Next question.
Next question.
Cue number 2.
We'll cross out the one that we just answered.
No, you can ask it again.
We'll ask it again. All right. With your experiences in the industry, what characteristics, we spoke about this on the way up, would you choose in having a director, your director, and overall, what is your impression of directors, perhaps some that you...
That's really an important question, I think, because I feel personally that a director can basically either make or break a film, in the sense that, especially for an actress, I think the director is just the most important part of a film, because, and I have yet to, I think, find the director that I feel is the most perfect. I think a good director for me would be someone that is very sensitive, has a real knowledge of what the character is and what the part is, and is able to convey that with making me understand, to make me understand it. There's some directors that, everybody has a different technique. I'm sure like every actor or actress has a different technique. But some directors just give you the lines, they give you the blocking, and then they let you go. And that's good to a point for me, but I need a certain amount of direction. I feel if I'm a little bit intimidated, I'll perform better. I feel that under pressure, and if I know that I'm working towards fulfilling something that the director wants, I think that's important. I think he has to be understanding and sensitive, and yet not weak. I think I could not handle a weak.
Somewhere between having what they call an actor's director, where they just say, here's the script, do what you want, and then someone else who is very rigid, and you don't have any leadway in no matter what. He says, step here, somewhere in between there.
Somebody that will allow you to make some of your own decisions and allow you to explore, but be strong with, just supportive. I used to have these dreams of directors that would sort of take me under their wing, and it's almost like the old, studio performers where a director was just like God or the Father that would, take a person and just sort of guide them through a film. And I think that especially for a female. I can't generalize that statement, but I know that for a female, for me anyway, to be able to look up to someone and not feel dominated, but feel like there is someone that is control, that you can trust, that's protecting you, I think.
Brooke had two best directors that Brooke's ever had. One, Louis Malle, who directed her in Pretty Baby. I think that was her very best film. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I think it was her best acting. Actually, it was her second film. But he intimidated her by constantly saying, we should have gotten Tatum O'Neal. And that's why she did very well. And then, of course, the second one was Franco Zeffirelli, whose also his reputation was renowned. And he just totally intimidated her in every way he could by constantly just directing everything to the her male lead.
You see, I think it enables a person to always strive. I mean, if you feel like you're perfect and you can just sit back, I don't think that no one can proceed. I don't think anybody can continue to learn if you're not always striving for something. I think that can be carried into whether it's a sport or whether it's just a hobby or anything. I mean, I always thought that what I did almost wasn't good enough, and you're just always trying to look to do better.
We met Meryl Streep on the set of Sophie's Choice, and she wasn't putting anything on, but when she was discussing anything we were talking about, she constantly had a Polish accent without even realizing. Yeah, it was interesting how we walked away thought we were talking to this Polish girl.
See, that's
that was
another
incredible.
thing. That's what I feel is a goal of mine would be to be able to become completely involved in a part. And I used to think that was very artsy, and weird. And yet, that was because I had other areas that I wanted to devote my time to. Like right now, I couldn't do that because I have to think of school, and I want to finish. I want to finish my major, and really, I'll be a French major, and I want to graduate and do those things. You sort of have to set your priorities. But once I finish, I want to just completely dedicate myself to making films. Am I answering question number 3 already?
No, that was number 6.
Oh, okay.
No, about actual production. You film on location. You've done filming on the water. You've done filming on a set at night. There's problems with each of them, and there's also costs. Do you want to just share some light?
Well, I don't know, I think I was just sort of, maybe it's fate or destiny, I think I was just born to go on location and make movies because I love it. There's a certain, there are negative aspects to each. I mean, it could be 4 o'clock in the morning and, you've been working all day and you just haven't gotten this set and the setup. And what happens is when they're big productions and when you're dealing with special effects and stunts, it's not only very intense and scary, but at the same time, it's just so tedious. I mean, as I said, 4 o'clock in the morning and you haven't gotten this shot, or the director's not happy, or things keep going wrong. That's when it's difficult. But it's at moments like that you really feel a sense of camaraderie with the crew. I mean, I know that I've always, whenever I make a film, the crew becomes like a family. I mean, you get to know people so intensely because you work with them for such long hours under such intense, difficult situations, and you're always against something, whether it be you're always against either time or money or something like that. So you're always sort of fighting something, and to know that you have the crew as a family to just sort of sit around and have a cup of coffee with, it's important. Let's see, that's night. On the set, it's fun because when you break, if I don't have any homework to do, normally I used to have homework to do, but if it's during the summer, you just have fun with the crew.
What about
underwater?
Underwater.
That was the best because you don't have to talk to anybody. It was the first time I've ever.
There are 2.
Yeah, okay, there are 2
Compared
films.
to 2, Blue Lagoon and...
Okay, well, Blue Lagoon, I was underwater, but I had no, well, I could say clothes, but tank or anything, or any, I had no tank or mask or anything. So I would have to, it was amazing because I would have to go under the water and smile and keep my eyes open. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever done this, but it's not the easiest, and it was
only 30 feet, too.
Yeah,
Was this a set underwater, or was
No,
this...
it was real. It was all, we were on coral reefs, and it was really hard because I had to, really looked like I was having the time of my life, and yet I couldn't see anything, and you had to be very careful of the coral, because if you cut yourself, you could get you can get infected. And they, Ron and Valerie Taylor, who were the cinematographer for Underwater, they did all the Day of the Dolphin, and they did like Jaws and things like that. And Ron would say, okay, when you're ready. Now, he couldn't use any mask or tank. I mean, he could use a mask, but not a tank because of the bubbles. And he couldn't see the bubbles. So he would say, whenever you're ready, and he would just go down very quietly. And then I would go down. He'd say, when you've had enough, if you can't breathe, come up. So I'd come up going, and then he would just sort of surface out of the water and go, like this. I mean, he could stay under there forever. And after the end of 3 months, I could stay underwater for, I don't know, at least a couple of minutes, completely just smiling and looking natural. And I just sort of built up this tolerance. Whereas in Wet Gold, we had...
excuse me. Also, it was only, I think, 30 feet you talked about going under. And it was pitch black. So Brooke said you sort of like had to pretend you were looking at someone, all you could see is black. And that's only 30 feet compared to Wet Gold, which was 80 feet.
Yeah.
And you were able to see everything, which is a different part of the world. And it's interesting how 30 feet you couldn't see and 80 feet was as clear. And why do you think that was?
Well, it depends on you're dealing with where there's when we did Wet Gold, we were in the Bahamas, and they were beautiful, beautiful. Not only just coral reefs, but just the fish were just beautiful, and the flowers were gorgeous. the plants underwater, and we had tanks, and I had to be certified, so I became a diver. I didn't have to be certified for Blue Lagoon, but I had to be certified for Wet Gold. And it was great because we'd work on the set, and it was just we were in the city or we were on the boat, and it was just it was hot, and sometimes you just got really tired, and then we'd go and do the underwater shots, and it was so easy, and you didn't have to memorize your lines or anything. It was fun.
How do you direct on the water? He just says, you know what you're doing, and then you go down there and do it, and hope they got the shot.
His name is Klein. What's his name? Klein. The underwater photographer, I forgot his name. He did the deep, and he had these pieces of paper that were sort of like plastic, so they wouldn't rip in the water. And he'd have all his shots, and of course this was up and this was down, and then he'd have different hand signals for things that you had to do, and he'd tell you basically what the shot was first, and then he would go down, and then he'd give you the okay signal, and then you just go through with it.
The director went down too, didn't he? The director was also under their director.
But they're all like, different signs for things. And
Interesting.
This is if you're dying.
This one's directed for you, Ms. Shields. You're executive producer for movie Sahara. Without getting too much into the movie,
Yes.
I don't think you really want to.
What do you mean by that?
No, I've heard
because they took me out.
problems. I don't, we can get into that if you want. I know there's a problem with those people. There was an episode on 60 Minutes the other night having to deal with them. Yes, I did. Yeah. And but being executive producer, what does that job entail? People say it's over-encompassing for one person to do.
Well, there are two ways of you can become an executive producer. One, if you want to work, and the other is if you want to pretend you're working and get paid the same way. Most people who are, say, connected to the star very often look for a paycheck because of their involvement being on the set all the time. And then they're just looking for a title also. Once you get a title, you can get a paycheck. And that wasn't my case. It's just that I'm always on the set with Brooke. And this particular time, I felt, dealing with the producers, that it was necessary to be extra careful and be there more so than a normal time as Brooke's mother. So they had approached me and asked me if I wanted to be the executive producer. What it really entails is overseeing everything that happens. In fact, I remember being out in the middle of the desert, and they had gotten a very fashionable Italian designer to design the desert clothes. And these men, these costumes came and they were out-and-out fashion plates, and they just looked ridiculous. And here they're supposed to be cutthroats. You know.
They're like purple with fringes and things like that.
Powder
And they're just
blue.
gonna, like,
So we had to get a big
Scrap.
oil can and fill it with tea and just beat these things to pieces. And I was all a part of that. In fact, my hands were black and nails were black for weeks because days because of the tea. But the things, I mean, someone had to oversee that. I mean, they looked too pretty. In fact, and then the car drivers, I don't know if you've seen the film, but they matched their cars. The Italians had red and green stripes on their clothes. And, you know, the one fellow who was always in white, and whatever he did, he went through the entire desert, and he was the one who almost won the race with Brooke. And at the very last moments before he lost the race, he was still sparkling white, which is something that, you know, you have to fight. And I fought all the way as to what the technical things were.
Was it your job to hire these people, or did?
Well, yes, I've helped cast, and it was a very unusual executive producer's position.
many executive producers I know that I've met, you meet them the last week of shooting, you know, just before the wrap party or something. I said, by the way, this is the executive producer. And, you know, I noticed a definite difference between what my mother was doing and what I've known executive producers to do. I don't think many executive producers are as actively involved as I know she was. I mean, it involves overseeing, you know, everything. I mean, and you can have these problems and these things go unseen. I mean, but then you're competent. I mean, you're not dealing.
And seeing the rushes every day, what you've shot the day before, is so important because you could match or try to see what the mistakes were. Or sometimes Brooke's mustache was on crooked. You know, those things had to be removed. And if you know, sometimes with the visual eye, you don't see it.
So you spend the whole day on the set
Fixing
shooting,
my mustache.
and then you spend the whole night watching it, and then you got to get up and
Yes.
do it. So it's like two jobs.
Well, actually, really, it is. And then everyone comes to you with their financial problems. And then,
Of course.
in fact, most of the time, a couple of people weren't getting paid at all, and I gave them their pay out of my own pay, and they had no idea, and they still don't have any idea. That didn't matter. But it was a really horrendous operation.
Would you do it again?
Sure. Except Die Hard.
I think we touched on this, but just to emphasize, what is the average amount of hours spent on, say, a feature film, a TV movie, a movie made for TV, say a special, or we talked about Johnny Carson's show, a modeling session in relation, and what out of that time period, what is you spending the most time doing? Is it rehearsing? Is it actual shooting?
Well, it depends on how old you are too. If you're and what state you're in. If you're a minor,
What state in the United States?
yeah, I mean, if you're on the West Coast, basically, and you're underage, if you're not 18, they can only work you because of the child labor laws. You can only have 4 hours of work in front of the camera, 3 hours of school, an hour of lunch, and an hour of recreation. So until you're 18, you're really protected, and it's great. The minute you turn 18, they can work you, I mean, up to
16,
14, 16 hours a day. I mean, they can run into their own problems of being overtime, you know, being in overtime as far as paying the crew, which the crews, you know, they go nuts, and then it's double time, time and a half overtime. So they don't really like doing that. Basically, a day is 12 hours for making a film. Usually, your call is about 7 maybe, and you work until about 7 or 8, maybe 9 at night.
Depending upon the weather, it's night shooting, day shooting.
And then what happens is if it's night shooting, we were shooting half day, half night on Wet Gold, which was a problem because you'd start at 1 in the afternoon and then you'd go till about 2 in the morning. And that really blew the whole day because you're tired and then you don't get up, you don't get up until just you're about to go to work. Normal productions, if they're shooting night shots, they start at 5 and they go till about 5 in the morning. And then if you're shooting day shots, you start at about 7 and go till about 8.
Studio.
Well, yeah, studios.
Studio in California is great because it's almost like a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday job. And they just...
You get the union and they just,
They just punch that clock.
That's basically TV and films. A special is, you don't really, doesn't take that long. I just did a Bob Hope special this weekend, and it'll be on the 16th of December, so you'll have to watch it. And Gosh, we'd start at 2 o'clock.
Rehearsing with Bob Hope is like having fun. It's not even a rehearsal. They
A
do it
few
once,
hours, maybe.
TV is so different.
In fact, this past time we rehearsed for about an hour, which is more than I've ever rehearsed with Bob Hope for any
It
TV
was
special.
exhausting.
And I was like, Bob, I said, you're spoiling me. I said, I don't know what to do now. It's not going to be spontaneous because normally he just doesn't, excuse me, rehearse at all. Modeling, it depends.
Because he uses cue cards. Most people rehearse, they try to remember everything. So it doesn't look so much like you're using cue cards behind the person playing opposite. And he forever uses cue cards, so it doesn't matter to him whether he rehearses, he'll just read his card. He's done that all his life, and if you take a card away from him, can't speak. That's the truth.
But and then modeling, it depends if you're doing a cover like I'm doing. I'm going to be shooting the cover of Vogue on Friday, and I'll probably get there 9 in the morning, and I'll probably be out of there by 12. I mean, if you're doing one cover, it takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to be totally ready because your makeup and your hair and then the wardrobe. And then the taking of the pictures can take
20 minutes.
15 minutes to half an hour, an hour.
What about
Depending upon the photographer, too, excuse me.
Okay.
Some photographers work faster, but they take more film. One photographer we know takes thousands and thousands of pictures. I mean, it's just outrageous. And he'll say, okay, Brooke, you're finished. And she'll say, oh, and so hold that. And then he's shooting her. But then there's other photographers that just take...
Some people use 35
No
millimeters.
time.
Some people use all different types of cameras too, depending on what takes.
Richard Avedon takes Polaroids that are 8x10s. 8x10 Polaroid,
Wow.
which is kind of interesting.
You don't spend a great deal of time rehearsing anything.
Nothing? Not even
Modeling?
film movies?
Modeling at nothing, not at all. Sometimes in a film, they'll spend the first week of production going over lines, going over the script, and becoming familiar with the character and familiar with the other characters, your fellow actors. Once you get into production, the amount of time that's spent in actual rehearsal is very minimal. I mean, as long as you know your lines, they do a great deal of just talking to you, to talk to you about how it should come out, and then they like it to be more spontaneous.
So how long does an actual production last for, say, a feature film?
12 to 16 weeks.
Yeah.
Very
And
long.
a TV movie you can do in
a month.
In a month.
The
And
least
Basically, it
amount, I would
depends. I
say,
mean,
yeah, the
if
very
it's a
least.
special that's 6 hour or a miniseries,
Right.
that
well,
could be
say
3
something
months.
like a Wet Gold.
Took us 1 month.
1
to
month?
do that. And about a 6-day week for about 12 hours a day.
6-day week too, though, so it makes it more than a month. But it's incredible the difference between
TV
You
and-
get a 2-hour film out of 5 weeks of shooting, and then you also get a 2-hour film out of 16 weeks of film. I mean, it's just that they don't have too many takes. Remember, so it's the first film she's ever done for TV, Wet Gold. She was rather frustrated because she wanted to do it better, and they just never do it, never
There's a difference.
shot.
When you're making a TV movie, you're fighting more or less more than just. I mean, in a TV movie, you really have to have a sense of exactly what you want to do and what you're trying to accomplish. Because what happens is, production becomes almost more important. No, we've got to get this set up because it's almost sundown, and we've only done 2 pages today, and it becomes almost. You really have to get a sense of yourself, because I remember doing a scene once, and I did it, and I thought, oh, well, I'll do it again. And they said, sorry, Brooke, we've got to move on. And it's frustrating. Whereas a film, I mean, they'll sometimes do one scene for an entire day. I mean, what they do is they go through, with each new camera angle, excuse me, you have a different letter. So if it's scene 120, then it's 120A, 120B, and each new camera angle is a different letter. And I remember going all the way through the alphabet, even into AA and BB, and it's just, by that time, I mean, you're
Must have been great.
tired.
I'd like to ask you about jobs in the industry for students like us without much experience. Is there enough money to hire someone like us? Is there enough jobs open for us? And if so, what is our best route into getting into it?
I should answer part, and then you should. I would think definitely that there is there's always seems to be a job of some kind that's open, whether it be, in production or starting in wardrobe and then going on to something else. I mean, there's always something. And there's what they do a great deal of times, they have sort of interns where they have students come and they'll be a script supervisor's sort of intern, I guess, someone that would, or assistant that will, go through what the person is doing, and then just by first-hand experience, by being in the film, you learn a great deal.
I always, if you're, say, a runner going to get coffee or something, it's always good to bring a pad and pencil and just observe as much as you possibly can. Because every film that we've ever worked on, there's always been a bunch of new people who've never worked on film before, who's always been interested in films.
And there's production, there's camera, the wardrobe, makeup, hair, everything. There's always something.
Somebody needs somebody to help them.
How do you go about becoming a runner? I mean, these people know somebody on the set, and they...
Well, most of the time, it's knowing somebody who knows somebody, But I imagine it doesn't always happen that way. I would think the best thing to probably do is to get these in the back of these movie film, what's the name? Not just Variety, but
Journal.
Hollywood Reporter, and then they have, I think, Playbill here in New York, and those film-oriented magazines. And in the back, they always, just even if you want to show up as an actor or an actress, and you don't really mean that, at least you can get into the door. And because they have like what we call in modeling business a cattle call, everybody shows up. And then half the people who wouldn't even realize that they would even be chosen. It's a very good possibility if you settle for something less as a job, whatever. But, you really have to be determined.
Right, and make the best of that situation.
Even if you say, I'm never going to be chosen, I'm never going to, just don't believe that about yourself. I mean, don't ever feel inferior because the next guy is you're just as good as the next guy.
Also, it's those who are determined are going to get somewhere. I mean, if you sort of sit back and say, well, I don't want to be too, of course you don't want to be too pushy, but then the other person, I know it sounds so cutthroat, but then the other person's going to get that job and you're going to be like, I should have exerted myself more.
Just don't ever think less of yourself for 1 second if you really have it in your heart to do something with the films. I mean, because everybody's just as good as the next guy.
Is it a cutthroat industry? I mean...
Behind the scenes it is. And then there's some actors and actresses, I could name a few females who hate Brooke just because she breathes. And yet maybe some are better actresses than Brooke. It's one of those things how some people... I mean, everyone. But I think it's more so behind the scenes than it is. And I think what I've seen with even the biggest stars and the biggest... it's a hard thing to try to get through to anyone, too. And the biggest, most important photographers I've ever seen in the world, the biggest thing I find with them is their insecurity. It's amazing how that prevails in every walk of life. I don't care, it's the most important executive I've ever met. Something that will just pop out that, whether his hair isn't combed right, he's constantly, fixing something. It's amazing how that particular end of it is. But that's usually, the problems are mainly behind the scenes, which is something you shouldn't have to think about if you're wanting to become actors or actresses.
If we have about 15 minutes or so, if it's okay with you, we'll have some questions from the audience.
Sure.
Just speak right up.
I'll speak up at once.
How do you find time to do all of this and go to school, especially at Princeton?
Well, school really is first for me. I live on campus, and it's sort of like having a sport. I don't know, if any of you are also involved in sports, but I know that, the amount of time that you spend practicing is sort of where I go into the city and work, and I'm not, since I've been at school, I haven't really done that many major projects that take any great deal of time.
Also, Brooke is putting a book together right now, and it's called On Your Own. And it deals with the last year of high school, mainly, and the first year of college. how to cope with that horrendous first year of freshman year, you know, that just, Brooke thought she was dying. She thought she was the only one calling home.
I thought I was going to die. I've never been so miserable in my life.
And she's putting that in the book. And actually, even though she's an actress, and that's a model, that does take her time other than school. There's a way of handling that, and she's writing about that. And you don't have to be an actor or an actress, but regardless of what you want to do, if you have a hobby like Brooke said, of sports or whatever, delivering paper, something that takes you away from your, or appears to take you away from your schoolwork.
It entails being organized.
Yes,
I mean, I'm so organized, and I always, I set times for things, and it's a matter of just really knowing what you want to do, when you want to do it, and just trying to do it the
And she has
best you
an
can.
excellent manager. But it's just a matter of getting things in their order and always keeping in mind what's the most important thing. And you could have two important things, but one's got to be more important than the other. And get that one straightened out. That's what Brooke does with school. It's killing my career. Not really. But the second, then you have time to work out the second group of things you want to do. So.
I have a question. Where would you say that the best place for a young actress to start at is in New York, under Lee Strasberg, or going to the schools there, or going out to California in LA and trying to make it in that way? Because the two are so different. There's a professionalism that I've seen in New York that isn't in LA.
No. I personally believe New York is the better place to be. California is really spread out and hard. And I think anyone who's there, that's in California, they feel more established, even though there are many struggling people there. I think you have a better chance in New York.
If you look at the actors and actresses that have really sort of have substantial careers and that are very good, mostly they have started by studying in New York. And once you get to California and Hollywood, it becomes more Hollywood, and it becomes more TV and which I'm all for, which is great, but if it depends on what you want. I think it's good to start.
Would you suggest a young person go to school in New York?
I would suggest it. I have I have not been to Strasberg, or I have not taken classes, so I don't really know. But I think any studying anybody can do is helpful.
Just keep after it until finally you get one.
You have to.
New York, Brooke has never shown any interest in the theater, and perhaps some of you are, and I can't see a better place at all. Right? It's totally erasing film business than New York for theater, actually. And people have often asked me how come Brooke has never been on stage or has been. She has never shown any interest in that. And growing up, guiding her, I always thought it was the worst thing I could ever do for her, because when they really become animated, and children, that is, do become animated and are able to handle the stage, that means every day after school that goes into the city. That means matinees on Wednesdays or Thursdays, whenever, matinees on Saturday, and rehearsal. That is just, talk about rehearsing or studying. I mean, you just don't have any time at all to yourself, none whatsoever.
That can take away a childhood. I mean, I've been asked that question so often. Haven't you lost your childhood? I mean, no. And I think for one reason is because I am going to school. I've always gone to school. I've been able to find a balance, but at the same time, it's because films are, they take a certain amount of time, but they're not continual and they're not, everlasting. And so I think for me, I haven't found my place in the theater yet. Maybe when I've had my taste of making films. Right now, yeah, I just want to make films.
Because you really have to
forever.
be totally dedicated. That is a dedication. That's.
Do you have a boyfriend?
I don't have one boyfriend, no. I've managed to have a lot of friends that I go out.
Suggestions?
That's it. What are you doing on Friday night?
Great guy. Line of wrestling? He's tall.
That is, That I have found it more difficult to find time for than I have for. That's hard because I'm trying to separate myself into school and work and somewhat of a social life, and it seems that if there are sacrifices to be made, which I don't really feel that there are that many, I usually take my social life, but.
But it's amazing how you always have time for a boyfriend or a girlfriend, no matter what you do. I think you.
I'm sure if I was completely over it. All right, she likes you, okay? That means she likes you. You've got to interpret these things the right way.
Anybody else?
How do the other students treat you? They treat you as like an average person or a celebrity? Are they nice to you?
It's we were talking about this before. They treat me just like everybody else, and then I'm never treated like a celebrity, which is really important to me. Princeton and going to school there is the only place that I can really be where I don't have to sign autographs or take pictures, and really it's wonderful. It settles a part of my life, really makes me feel good.
We had a meeting with the school before Brooke's first day, and they thought it'd be a good idea to have a press conference, and I thought it was the worst thing in the world. So we made a deal that I wouldn't do anything with the media, and that they wouldn't either. And that, of course, on Brooke's part included interviews of certainly on campus or any kind of autograph seekers or whatever.
We're sort of special here then.
Yeah,
Well, that's true. It's the first thing Brooke has done, actually.
Did anybody see you come in to ride her?
Well, somebody was peeking their head out of the window. Someone came in by a garbage disposal.
I got a great view of where you keep your garbage, though.
So great, too.
Has everybody been catching this cold? I don't know. If
Cold?
I haven't gotten rid of it yet.
Well, Brooke has a paper to do tomorrow.
I do.
I have an acting final in a half hour, so I can one day be sitting here.
Really?
And we want to...
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Thanks for coming by.
I'm glad you knew we were coming.
Oh, nice.
Oh, this is great. I went by and I said, I saw the store, just the window, and I was like, God, I want to stop by. Oh, this is great. Thank you so much.
Well, that's terrific. Oh, this is beautiful.
Put it on now.
Well, thank you. Of course, I gave up beer, but I'm sure coffee.
Coffee goes really well with it.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you all very much. That's really nice. Such a pretty color, isn't it? Is the school colors blue and